Hello, everyone, and welcome to this next episode of Truth Shots with Kapil, the de addiction series. Well, we've been talking about de addiction and addiction for some time, but today I'm extremely honored to have with me Manisha Mehta. She has her expertise in weight, fat, muscle management, and sports nutrition. She has done a food scientist graduate degree from Delhi University and a master's degree in dietetics and food service management systems. Her interest in nutrition has made athletes made her qualify a certification in sports nutrition from US from California. She has also represented India as the only nutritionist in the speaker panel in an environment toxicology conference in Singapore. I would like to hear something about that, Manisha. She has nearly 12 years of experience. She's been working in the health industry and she still swears by homemade balanced food approach for all her clients, including the ones that she works with that have metabolic disorders like thyroid or PCOD or diabetes. So, Manisha, over to you if you can give our audience a little bit more insights about you, and then we will jump into questions.
Thank you so much, Kapil, for a brilliant introduction. I think all that is glorified on paper is just it's just a symbolization of how much fun I have had studying science, studying human body more in detail, and I think that was always my first love. I realized that when I was 18, but I think it was destined to happen because I'm a Punjabi. We are supposed to love food, and
Yeah,
by that definition, I we love talking also. So now I've made this my profession. I talk about food.
perfect.
And I love what I do. And always on, always the aim is to help people more and more live a foodie life and at the same time have a fit body.
Perfect. So you have you talk about this term emotional eating, and I'm sure a lot of the audience hearing this may not really know what emotional eating is. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
So Kapil, what I have seen with a lot of people is that yes, of course, food is fuel, right? We are supposed to eat, and food gives us the energy as well. Food gives us all the nutrients for the body repair, body functions. But there is a very deep connection of our emotions with the food. Reason being, our body still works like early man. So when we eat, our brain associates availability of food with safety, with enjoyment, with fun. And as a result of that, a lot of happy hormones also get secreted based on the time of the day when we eat, right? However, with a lot of people, what happens is that they tend to fill emotional voids created by some other emotions which are not related to food with food. So, for
Mhm.
example, there are people, of course, this is with us Indians that we are supposed to eat when we are happy. That is there, right? That is by definition there. But
Right.
there are people who eat when they are very sad. There are people who eat when they are very angry or
Or
when they're
stressed.
disappointed or stressed.
Right.
Yes. These kind of behaviors, if they become a pattern in your life, that is emotional eating.
Sure. So, one of the things that I have always found fascinating, and I'm not an expert in this, but in all the research that I have done, it seems like different specific nutrients or different specific food play a different role in stabilizing moods of people, in reducing anxiety or stress, and some of them are even associated with withdrawal. Can you kind of, from your expertise, talk a little bit more about different body types, different food types, and the correlation between them?
See, unfortunately, all the unhealthy foods have that effect on us. And the reason for that is so I'll give you an example. Sugary foods and fried foods, in particular, are associated a lot with emotional eating, right? And the reason of that, again, is connected to the primal tendencies that our body has, right? So, if we talk about the early man, food was not very available, right? So anything which was sweet is also a source of good amount of calories which will last you for a very long time,
Sure.
right? So fermented foods, fermented fruits, right? Uh, Fruits which are sweet, again, will give you more calories, hence more energy, right? Fermented fruits, which today we call alcohol, that for so the connection of fermented food or alcohol with the early man is that all the fruits which would have fallen off the tree and now are fermented, they have alcohol in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're easy to reach, right? And that's the reason why in our brain, alcohol is also a likable thing,
Sure.
right? Because it's easily available fruit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Similarly, it's the same thing with the fried food also. When we eat fried, that means you have had a good amount of fat, which means energy for a very long time,
Sure.
right? Which means food is done. Now you can go to the safety net of your cave and sleep, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we eat fried food, there is a reason why we feel sleepy. It's like our body goes, खाना पीना हो गया, मन चली life.
So you are saying our basic food eating is linked to our primal needs, which is linked to how
Absolutely.
we have evolved as a species.
Absolutely. Yes. And the thing is, so the problem here is that with early man, these issues of hypolipidemia or hypothyroidism or cholesterol were not there. Reason being, physical activity was equivalent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was integrated into the lifestyle in a way that you have to move to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You have to fight to survive, right? But so evolutionary perspective, from the evolutionary perspective, every change in every living organism takes millions of years to happen, right? But our lifestyle, so I tell this to my clients that we have gone from Flintstones to Jetsons in like in the bigger scheme of things, it has happened in a millisecond.
Right.
That's why our systems, our body systems, have not been able to cope with it, right? This is the reason why today we talk so much about cortisol, which is called the stress hormone. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, the function of cortisol is to prepare you for a fight
Yeah.
with an animal baby,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, the problem is that the kind of stress that we have today is not animal related. It's
Mm-hmm.
related to maybe a pending PowerPoint that you have.
Like.
But our brain cannot differentiate.
Mm-hmm.
For our brain, stress is life threatening.
Sure.
So it will prepare the body accordingly.
Sure.
That's where
And
the problem happens.
sure. So specifically, looking at the current one, and you talked about how, lives have changed. So stress is no longer about, actual fight. It could be about a simple PowerPoint presentation that you have to do. But, and therein comes the big question of new age addictions.
Hmm.
Uh, Gaming, gambling, internet, porn,
Yeah.
shopping, eating. How could dietary strategies be applied to help individuals, one, recognize and manage early stage cravings, perhaps even before they develop into addictive behaviors?
Hmm. See, the fundamental is that you require all the nutrients for your body's function, right?
Hmm.
So if you are basically foundationally following a healthy, balanced diet, you will be able to take care of a lot of your cravings.
Sure.
So if your breakfast, lunch, dinner, the main three meals have the three major nutrients, carbohydrate, protein, and fiber, you would crave less.
Sure.
But today, the problem again is that we have demonized nutrients. We have
Hmm.
demonized carbohydrates, right? And if you are trying to cut down on carbohydrates, of course, your body is going to ask for energy.
Sure.
And carbohydrate is the major source,
Hmm.
right? So your body will crave for stuff. And when the craving happens, that's when the obsessive behavior starts.
Hmm.
So if you if you have had a good, nice meal, after that, if somebody tells you to eat something which is not good for you, you might, in the heat of the moment, you might take a sip or two or a bite or two. But then, if you are purposely cutting down on energy source and at that time somebody offers you an ice cream, of course you won't be able to stop,
Sure.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
working with dealing with cravings, the easiest way to deal with cravings is to give your body what it requires in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
and this is something which we are anyway doing now with gentle parenting, with self care, right? You give your child what they need to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
they do not look for answers outside. You
Sure.
give the emotional support at home so that they don't look for emotional support outside. It's the same thing, it's the same concept, right? You give your body what it requires so that it doesn't show any obsessive behaviors,
Sure.
right? However, with the things that you said, porn, gaming, again, these things trigger pleasure centers of the brain, right? They give um, quick dopamine hit. So dopamine is the happy hormone,
Mm-hmm.
right? And today, I think most of us live with a dopamine overdrive because everyone is scrolling reels, right? And every single minute, your emotion is changing.
Mm-hmm.
In one reel, you're crying. In another reel, you might be laughing on the floor, right? So emotions are changing very rapidly, right? You are getting dopamine hit with every like that you get, with every comment that you get, right? With every reel that you watch. Because of which, your brain now has easy to access dopamine, and that's where the depth of emotions goes away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actual healthy sources of dopamine are watching a sunrise, watching
Sure.
sunset, right? Enjoying nature, enjoying time with your family, having quality sex, right? Having good time with your pets. So these are good dopamine sources. But today, because dopamine is on the click of the thumb, that's why these obsessive behaviors happen, because now the brain knows that in 30 seconds I can get the dopamine. So why wait for the sunset?
So, what do people with different kinds of addictions do? What should be, how should they be doing their dietary planning, or how should they be doing, looking out for what they eat? Because they have an addiction, and addiction may not be food addiction, right?
Yeah,
Addiction could
yeah,
be gaming and
absolutely,
gambling and
absolutely.
anything else. How do people do that planning? How can food, their intake, help them?
See, so the fundamental is you have protein, and fiber in your plate, right? So your carb, the choice of your carb can be rice, can be roti, can be quinoa, can be millets, whatever, but have it, right? Fiber can come from fruits and vegetables both. Have whatever, right? Protein can come from your chicken also, egg also, milk also, curd also, or a protein supplement also. Have that. So basically, make a meal which has all the elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the foundation. But somebody who is working towards leaving an addiction, it's going to be more than just carbohydrate, protein, and fiber, right? It's going to be uh, very important for them to have good quality sleep,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when we sleep well, our body takes care of all the hormonal imbalances,
Sure.
right? So, one is that. Second is doing some introspection about what exactly is going wrong. What exactly is the emotional void that you're trying to fill with this addiction of yours,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because giving a very simple example, somebody who is dependent on nicotine or a cigarette, right? The moment they feel a little bit of anxiety, they want a cigarette,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not like there is a magic food which will help them not crave for nicotine. But what they actually need to work on is their anxiety inducing behaviors, or how they deal
Mm-hmm.
with anxiety,
Sure.
right? So it's not only about what you eat, it's about how you live overall.
Sure. And that would always also depend on the kind of body type that you have, right?
In a way, yes. So as per Ayurveda, there are three major attributes
Mm-hmm.
of body which make different combinations of body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if we talk about the modern size, we call it ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one person who is very, very lean, one person who is a moderate build, and one person who is a heavy build,
Yep.
right? These are there, and in fact, people who are more of vata or pitta personality, which is fire element and air element. And like I won't talk about the modern science because I don't think modern science has explored this as much. But I feel from the Ayurvedic perspective, people who have a dominance of fire element and air element,
Mhm.
they will be more prone to addictive behaviors. Reason being, the the basic nature, they have a very dynamic nature.
Mhm.
So finding depth for somebody like that might be a little tough. It will take a lot more work for them,
Mhm.
right? In fact, I am myself a pitta personality, right? So I understand the kind of thoughts and continuous thoughts, right? So in these cases, meditation helps, right? Having those relationship anchors helps, right? Having a specific direction for a long-term vision of life helps, right? But yeah, people who have a very lean to moderate body type, this is the direct implication of vata and pitta in modern science, right? It's not a I won't say that it is a thumb rule, but this is like a I would say an observation
Sure.
or a refer or an inference that I can
Mhm.
draw out of what I've studied in Ayurveda.
Sure.
Yeah.
So people, before they think about what they eat, or before they think about their addictions, or before they think about their de-addiction, should first try to find out their body type, then try to find out what kind of food would suit their body type.
Um,
Um,
so that would become a very in-depth Ayurvedic approach, right? Not everybody has access to that.
mhm.
I think yes, if you have the bandwidth, then do that. That's great. But somebody who is, who just knows that okay, fine, मेरे को cigarette की addiction है.
Mhm.
If that much is enough. That
Mhm.
knowledge that okay, fine, I'm addicted to this X thing is enough for you to try and come out of that,
Sure.
right? And one thing that will always help is to go in depth of where exactly emotionally the need is happening, and then work on that basic need.
Sure. I guess the question then becomes, how do you get out of it? I mean, many people that
Sure.
suffer from any sort of addictions, usually society's response is, be strong,
Yeah,
have the willpower and get out of it. Of course, that doesn't, we
that
all,
doesn't work.
that doesn't work very well.
That doesn't work. No.
Right. So how do people get out of it? And this is really, what the focus of the work that we are doing is,
Hmm.
people inherently will require support. If
Absolutely.
it's any kind of addictive behavior, if there
Hmm.
is any kind of obsessive behavior, for them to get out of it will
Hmm.
always require some support level for them.
Some coach. I think
Some,
that's the right word
well,
for it.
say the word support, because
Yeah.
the moment I say coach, it
Hmm.
means an individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm saying support as it support could be a process, support could be a person, support
Hmm.
could be something else that works with that particular person in
Hmm.
moderating or getting them out of that addictive behavior. In fact,
Right.
what we are doing, as Soul Wellness or as Prarabh Life program, we have created a full, call it program, a 3 month and a 6 month program. In some ways you could say it's a like for like replacement of what would happen in a rehabilitation center, or in a treatment
Hmm.
center for people with addictive behaviors. But we
Yeah.
have created almost like taken the entire spectrum of psychology principles that would be applicable for people going through these kinds of addictions, put them together in the form of a tech based self-help kind of a program, and that's what we provide to people. But while we are doing that, we do realize that nutrition, supplements will have a huge role to play as we work with these people. So, and as we provide that support, I mean, let's call that program as a coach in
Yeah.
space. So,
Yeah.
what I guess, what we are trying to explore and what we are trying to have our audiences consider is,
Hmm.
while you are going through and getting support in any specific form, what role or how would you be able to change your eating habits or look at your nutrition patterns in a better manner?
Hmm. That's interesting. In fact, I think, see, I completely believe that when you have behaviors like these, and when you are emotionally connected to something,
Mhm.
the bad habit that we are talking about, at times it's very difficult to see it rationally,
Sure.
right? When you are in that mess of emotions,
Mhm.
at that time, looking at your bad habit from a rational eye gets
Mhm.
tough, right? And I think that's where the external support helps,
Sure.
right? Yes, it can be a person, it should preferably be a person. Reason being, if this person was so self motivated, they would do it,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, there are still people who are mentally that strong, who would just require a little bit of nudge, who will be greatly benefited from a program like Prarabdh.
Sure.
Hmm.
So, one last question before I get into, some final questions.
Mhm.
With the increasing use of tech in the entire wellness space, how can digital platforms be used by individuals to better track their eating patterns, especially when they are going through an addiction recovery?
See, personally, I would say if you are somebody who is overcoming obsessive behaviors, stop recording your stuff.
Okay.
So the people who are counting calories, or the people who are, measuring food or digitizing stuff about their body, for a lot of people, that activity itself becomes toxic,
Okay.
because then they get into the obsession of counting,
Sure.
right? I come across a lot of people who have messed up their emotional health. लाइफ में बाकी सब बढ़िया चल रहा है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, but the only obsession that they have is calorie counting.
Hmm.
That now becomes the cortisol source.
Sure.
That becomes the flight and fight response for them,
Right.
right? So if there is somebody who is like that, you know, in fact, this is something that I tell my clients also. If checking your weight gives you anxiety, don't do it,
Right.
right? Because if you are eating healthy, it will show, your body will show.
Sure.
Like, you do not have to get into the number game.
Hmm.
However, for some people, it's a way to feel a grip on on their life,
Hmm.
feel in control, right? For them, it might help. So again, I think this is an individual's choice. This is an individual approach that comes here, because no one thing is going to work for everyone.
Sure.
Hmm.
In fact, that's something that I would agree 100% as well. No two body types
Are the
are the
same.
same. No two
Absolutely.
obsessive behaviors, addictions are
Are
the
the
same.
same. No.
So one of the things that everybody needs to do is to look at what works for them.
Absolutely.
There is no right or wrong answer. It's not like you counting the calories that you are eating will work for everyone. And it's not like
Absolutely.
not counting them is going to work for everyone. It's not like eating more proteins will work for everyone. And it's not like eating more carbohydrates would work for everyone.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
so I think specifically as we think about de-addiction, specifically as we think about people having to look at their obsessive behaviors, I think the most important aspect is to do that plan to understand yourself, your body type, your behavior type, what drives you to a certain kind of behavior,
Hmm.
and then get the associated support for it. Um,
Exactly.
of course, I mean, as I said earlier, I don't think most people have the willpower to do it alone by themselves.
Yeah.
However, using the approach to manage your nutrition coupled with the approach to get the right kind of support, I think can be extremely therapeutical for people that are going through this support. And
Exactly.
one of the other things that I always talk about is de-addiction for most people is usually the last resort. So it's almost like most people want to finally end up trying to do de-addiction of alcohol when the doctor has told them, dude, you got a liver which is fatty enough that it's gonna burst one day. And, just
Yes,
stop
yes,
or you're gonna die.
that's true.
Or similar stuff. I mean, people with smoking behavior usually end up spoiling their lungs with that. People with other behaviors end up doing something else. Uh, I very sincerely believe that if we are able to use these approaches, one, the approach of providing people support through technology.
Mhm.
Number two, providing people or empowering people with the knowledge to manage the nutrition, their eating habits, and their food habits. Three, helping them develop that kind of a support structure, a buddy system in some ways
Mhm.
of intervention. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and fourth, providing them with an associated community of like-minded people. I think it would go
These things help. Absolutely. Yes.
a long way in trying to manage both the obsessive behaviors as well as addictions. And being India, looking at the number of people that suffer from some kind of substance use addiction. Actually, while most people keep talking about substance use addiction, I also want to specifically also look at behavioral addictions. The number of kids that are addicted to the Dream 11s and the MPLs,
Oh,
and
wow.
the various gambling sites,
Absolutely.
the people that are addicted to that one more like on Instagram reel, or the viewership of Instagram reels for that matter, the people that are addicted to gaming, the people that are addicted to shopping or eating
Mm.
in that sense. There is definitely a lot that needs to be done, and people like you, Manisha, I think play a very critical role in helping them set that basic right. I mean, if they are not able to set this basic right, then
Mm.
irrespective of what therapy you take, irrespective of what everything else you do, it's probably not going to be as effective, because
Absolutely.
you do have that control. You need to have that control on your emotions. You need to have that control on your hormones. You need to have that balance in your energy levels and in your nutrition level. And
Yeah.
that's where I guess that's where you come in as an expert. um,
Yeah.
I hope our audiences would have gathered this, and there is a lot more people that would start looking at nutrition, start looking at their food habits, and how do they manage themselves, their
Mm.
obsessive behaviors, their addictions, and all.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to hear a little bit more from you. Any parting thoughts, any last thoughts that you would want to leave our audience with?
I think one thing that everybody should work on is for the last, I guess, 10 odd years. In fact, for the last 5 years, I would say, post pandemic, awareness around food and health has increased a lot, which
Mm-hmm.
I am loving, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
However, one thing which we should not ignore is the emotional health, right? We need to take care of our body signals, not only physically, but also emotionally. When your body is showing obsessive behaviors, when your body is showing unnecessary anger, irritation, there is something that you need to work towards. There is something that is asking for your attention. So take care of that and keep your close people close to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, this is something which happened very recently, day before yesterday, and I was so proud that I live in this man's house. My husband, they had they had a friend who was sounding very upset, and two of these, my husband and another friend, at 10:30 in the night, they just went to his home and made sure that he's okay. I think this is also another thing that we need to do as people for our people. And if ever we are feeling something like that, I think it's always better to reach out for help, whether it's a friend or a coach or anyone. Just look out for support. Never stay.
Mm-hmm.
Staying alone is different. Staying lonely is different. Never stay lonely.
Sure.
Like you always have support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, on that note, hey, Manisha, thank you so much for being a guest on Truth Shots with Kapil, the de-addiction series. I'm
Mm.
sure the audience will love this session. will want to look at their eating behaviors, their nutrition, and their food behaviors.
Thank you so much, Kapil, for having me.
Thanks so much. And everyone, thank you for tuning in. Look forward to having you on the next session of Truth Shots with Kapil, the de-addiction series as well.